Hello, beautiful souls. I'm your host, Janet Tarantino, and I want to express my deepest gratitude for joining me here at Exploring Everything Spiritual. On this channel, we'll dive deep into the mystical and the profound. I'll be sitting down with remarkable guests who have undergone life-altering spiritual moments when the veil between worlds thins and the ordinary becomes extraordinary. But that's not all. I'll also be sharing captivating spiritual narratives, stories that touch the very essence of our souls. If you've had a transformative experience or possess an uplifting spiritual tale to tell, I invite you to connect with me through my website, janettarantino.com. Today's story is provided by Meg of Massachusetts. The Sicilian heritage of my father's family was profound, and his brother, my Uncle Joe, had a resonant voice filled with such warmth that it naturally attracted others, making him a cherished member of our community. During my tumultuous teenage years, I found sanctuary in his home. It was a haven from the chaos of my family, a place where I could escape the influences that led me astray. My parents, desperate to steer me back on course, believed distance might be the remedy, and I couldn't agree more. Living with Uncle Joe wasn't just a change of scenery, it became a transformation. He was the entire epitome of my wisdom, patience, and compassion. His support was unwavering, his advice wise, and his generosity boundless. He became my mentor, my confidant, my rock. When I returned home after those 6 life-altering months, I carried a renewed spirit and an optimistic outlook on life. When Uncle Joe became ill, the gravity of his illness was a shadow that loomed over us, its weight unknown. He shielded us from the truth, sparing us the burden of worry. His protective nature extended even to my father, who was kept busy by the demands of his restaurant. Uncle Joe bore his pain silently, not wanting to add to our stress. For those of us miles away, we knew of his nurse, yet remained oblivious to the reality of hospice care. In hindsight, I believe Uncle Joe orchestrated this omission with purpose, sparing us the agony of anticipation. Reflecting on Uncle Joe's life, it's clear that family was his compass. He reveled in weddings and grand reunions, where the tapestry of our family was celebrated and woven tighter with each celebration. In the September before his passing, his son's wedding became the stage for one of Uncle Joe's grandest gestures. He gathered us all together, renting an entire floor of a luxurious hotel to ensure we remained united under one roof. Throughout that time, I felt an overwhelming urge to embrace him, as if my soul knew these moments were precious. I became the unofficial videographer at the reception, capturing memories that would soon become priceless. My lens gravitated toward Uncle Joe, especially since his infectious energy was impossible to ignore. He danced to Baby Got Back, which was a spectacle of pure joy, his laughter echoing in my heart. In amidst the festivities, Uncle Joe was already planning our next gathering. His meticulous binders for every event were a testament to his love for organization and celebration. The family reunion he envisioned would have been another testament to his dedication to family unity. When the celebration ended, our farewell was poignant, marked by an extra hug and kiss that seemed to carry the weight of unspoken truths. As we parted, a sense of desperation overcame me, making me call out to Uncle Joe for one last embrace, a moment I now cherish. The cruel twist of fate came swiftly after the wedding. On his birthday, December 6th, Uncle Joe received the devastating news of his cancer. Upon learning of his brother's condition, my father flew out immediately to be by his side. The sorrow in my father's eyes upon his return spoke volumes, confirming my deepest fears without a word. That night, as I lay in bed, memories of Uncle Joe flooded my mind, a montage of love, respect, and cherished times. Sleep eventually came, but the thoughts of his battle lingered. On Christmas Eve, after I was in deep slumber, Uncle Joe came into my dream time. But that wasn't happening in a simple dream. It was a visit from my Uncle Joe. I stood or floated in nothingness while looking out into the darkness. Suddenly, I saw Uncle Joe surrounded by glowing lights. Even though a bright light surrounded him, he still looked sick. That's when I thought, "You look lousy, Uncle Joe." My thoughts were communicated to him telepathically because he answered, "I know, baby girl. It's time for me to go home." I couldn't imagine losing him, so I pleaded, "You can't leave us. You can't leave us yet." But he compassionately transmitted, "I have to go, but I love you. Tell everyone else that I love them too." I thanked him for everything he had done for me and my family because Uncle Joe would take our family on trips with him. It was his way of ensuring my dad would take time for himself. With the mere desire to hug him again, I found that I was reaching out to hug him. During our embrace, even though Uncle Joe was in spirit at the time, I could also physically feel him. I know that is hard to comprehend, but I could feel the texture of his shirt and the scruff of his whiskers on my face. Then he grabbed my hands, looked into my eyes, and said, "I have to go now, but I'm always here." When he disappeared, instantly, when he vanished, I woke up and felt like I had just left him. It was so weird. I never had a dream where I felt like I was gone and now I'm back. Immediately, I looked at the clock and saw that it was 3 a.m. I laid in bed crying due to the loss I felt until I was so exhausted I was able to sleep again. I knew with my entire being that Uncle Joe was gone. The only way I can describe the sense of being gone and then being back again is by saying my spirit must have left my body and met Uncle Joe as he was leaving his world before he reached heaven to say goodbye before he moved on to heaven and I returned to my body. Cancer's merciless progression stole Uncle Joe from us just 19 days after my father's visit. His departure from this world happened on the serene morning of Christmas, leaving us with a silence filled with absence. That morning, my mom came and knocked on my door. She told me she needed to talk to me, my brother and my sister downstairs. When I opened my door, I just looked at her and said, "I know." She asked, "What do you know?" That's when I said, "I know he's gone." We both started crying, and then we went downstairs. When my siblings and I heard the words come from my mother's mouth, who voiced to us that Uncle Joe was gone, I broke down and wept again. Hearing the words, "Uncle Joe passed away this morning at 2 a.m., made it real. When Mom told us the time of his death, my mind went back to when I woke up in the middle of the night after dreaming of him and seeing the reading on the clock that said 3 a.m. my time. That would have been 2 a.m. Iowa time where Uncle Joe lived. That's why I know in my heart that I met Uncle Joe just as he was transitioning to heaven, in that dimension between this world and heaven, to say another goodbye. Seeing him alive, even though he was not in his body, assures me that after death we still live on. In the end, I guess you could say, we did have a family reunion, but the reunion was not in the traditional sense. It was to celebrate his life on the day of his funeral. In honor of his tradition of making a binder for everyone, we placed a binder about the gathering for his funeral on top of his casket on the day of his funeral celebration. We knew in our hearts that Uncle Joe would nod and smile at our gesture. The following year, my sister got married, and I thought about Uncle Joe and how much he loved weddings and wanted to be with us when we had our weddings. With him heavy in my thoughts, I talked to him and I said, I don't know if you can hear me, but I laid out my heart to him about missing him, and that night I went to sleep and had another dream encounter with Uncle Joe. My dream encounter took me to the house where I currently live. I live in the house my grandfather built, and my dad and my uncle owned and grew up in. My apartment is at the back of the house that my grandpa built. And I remember going to his house during my younger days for holidays. My grandparents and everyone else in the more prominent family were there, including aunts, uncles, cousins, and grandkids. In the dream encounter, my Uncle Joe was sitting in the recliner chair in the living room while he was there. I was sitting on the floor looking up at him, and he looked so sad, but he looked young too. Instead of sick, he looked healthy. This time, Uncle Joe looked like I remembered him from his younger days when we were children. He wore a suit and tie like he always did. His dress wasn't fancy. He was simply a conservative and strong man who loved family. That's when I asked him, why are you so sad? He answered my question by replying, because you're sad. I stood up in front of him. He held my hand saying, you need to show me you're going to be okay. That's when I started to weep again. I sobbed while saying, I miss you and I love you. You're missing everybody and everything. He replied, I'm not missing anything. I continued to weep and told him, well, I don't see you. I don't know you're here. Uncle Joe told me, you must have faith and know I'll always be here because I will. Then he said, I want you to repeat after me. I want you to say it as if it's New Year's Eve. I want you to go outside and look up to the sky and say, Uncle Joe, I'm going to have a good year. He sternly told me if somebody knocked him down, he would get right back up, and that's what he expected of me. He lived by encouraging others to pick themselves up and go on. He had the same attitude with everybody. I assured him I would do it, and he said, that's my girl. Then I leaned in and we hugged. Again, I could feel his beard scruff on my cheek, and I could feel him cuddling me, and it was not imaginary. It was real. Then Uncle Joe told me, I need to go, but don't forget, I'm always here. He kissed my nose and left in an explosion of white light, leaving me covered in a heavenly peace that's hard to explain. Instantly, I woke up feeling the peacefulness he had wrapped me in. With a tear trickling down my cheek, I lay in bed and told Uncle Joe, okay, well, good job. I got your message. I get it. I'm going to try to be okay. While pondering what happened, I can only describe it as similar to the previous experience when Uncle Joe was on his way to heaven. I felt as if I had been gone from my body when I suddenly saw Uncle Joe and then returned to my body again afterward. It's bizarre feeling, but I know he and I were together in the house with childhood memories. I now live in the same house where he and my dad grew up, and his legacy of love and family unity continues to resonate. These dream visions have connected me to Uncle Joe and the belief that his spirit is still with us, especially in our family celebrations. Remember, dear listener, to subscribe and like, as life is a tapestry of moments, some mundane, others magical, and each click, each like, each subscribe is more than a digital gesture. It's a testament to our shared humanity, our yearning for connection beyond the boundaries of time and space. Thank you for being here. Bye.